Welcome, welcome, welcome to session 5 of Make Money While Making a Difference. How in the heck is real estate funding nonprofits by $8 billion a year, yet you don't know about it? Less than 1% of nonprofits are getting funded by real estate, and less than 1% of real estate professionals know that this is a thing. If you can please mute yourself out if you've jumped in on Zoom. We are not on Facebook Live on this session. We are on Zoom, and I need everyone to mute out. Thank you. So we've been talking about list, liquidate, leverage, list, liquidate, leverage, and leave legacy. Today, we're going to talk about who is this specialized nonprofit that is the bridge, that is the go-between between the real estate donor and the nonprofit that wants the cash. Now, as I've mentioned in this series, look, if you find a nonprofit that will actually take donations of real estate, hallelujah, good for you. It is our experience that the 1.1 million public nonprofits and 1.6 million total nonprofits in all of the years that our specialized nonprofit friends, whom you'll be meeting in about 10 minutes, in all their years of doing this, they've met maybe 30 that can have donations of real estate that they take. And when the donations are made, some of the donations are free and clear, like there's no encumbrances. The donor doesn't want any cash. It's appraised at $1 million and there's no mortgage to pay off. The donor doesn't want cash. It's a straight up donation. And some of them will take something like that. But a huge percentage of these donations have a mortgage, or they need a septic system put on, or they need radon mediated, or the donor says, well, it's valued at $1 million and I love our veterans, but I'd really like to get 100 cash out of it. Let me get 100 grand so I can go on a nice vacation. In other words, anything like that that's known as a bargain sale, which we will get into in the boot camp. The ones that do take donations don't necessarily have the funds for that, because if it's $1 million appraised piece of property and there's a $200,000 mortgage on it, you better have access to a $200,000 pocket full of money to pay that off, to take ownership of it so you can put it on the market and sell it. So in other words, all of these nuances make this a very complicated and risky business for the majority of nonprofits. And that is why you've never heard of this, because why would real estate schools be teaching it? Why would financial service places be teaching it? If at the end of the day, when you know about it, great, sounds nice, but none of the nonprofits will do it anyway. So that's why this specialized nonprofit was created. So when you look on your form, as you know, go to cammybaker.com/lab to get your copy of this. And even when these recordings are in YouTube later on, you will be able to go to cammybaker.com/lab to get your copy. When you look on the page that we are on today, which is day 5, introducing the ideal seller, skip number 1 for now, because I don't want you going and Googling and trying to figure something out when you need to be present with us right now, okay? So I want you to understand the relationship with these folks. And I also want you to be thinking about what are the questions that you would ask right now today if you could, because you're going to have the opportunity in a few minutes. So number 2, notice that it says they are specialized nonprofit. They are available for Q&A with this stuff in mind. The first bullet point, those with blank take priority. So think about this logically. Those with the unfair advantage take priority with them. Why? Because when you have the unfair advantage, when you are highly invested, when you have committed to being the hero and stepping up for your nonprofit friends, when you are the one that is taking this on hardcore and you say, yeah, I want to do a deal where all the money goes to the nonprofits. I want to do several deals a month. I want to do hundreds of thousands of dollars of proceeds going to my nonprofit friends. I want to have the unfair advantage. When you say that and you make the investment for that, obviously they want to talk to you more than anyone else, because you're committed and you're actually going to be doing a deal, and they would like that, right? Now, the second bullet, when you are part of blank, you are enrolled in interaction with them 3 times a week. So when you're part of the boot camp, the Charitable Gifting of Real Estate 101 boot camp that we've been talking about all week, when you're part of the boot camp, which for this recording happens on October 6th, Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and we will have more versions of it later. So when you're part of that boot camp, for the next 90 days, you're going to have access to talk to them every week with all of your questions. So to meet them now and to know that when you've invested in having the unfair advantage and in the boot camp, you're able to build rapport. You can get on a first name basis with Bruce and Jay and know how this thing works and be able to be on speed dial with them. Third bullet down. If you have not taken the boot camp, they will suggest that you do so, as it is the basic knowledge and saves a lot of time with random brain pickers. So if you're thinking to yourself, ooh, I'm going to find out who the specialized nonprofit is, and as soon as she tells me who they are, I'm just going to send them an email. I'm just going to go check them out on the website. We have every right to do that, and you most certainly can reach out to them, but think this through logically. If you reach out to them, hey, I just have a question for you. I met you through Cami. They're going to say, have you taken the boot camp? No, I'm too cheap to pony up a couple $100 to learn, but I want to pick your brain. Not going to happen. They're going to say, look, we helped Cami put the boot camp together. In that 4 hours, you're going to learn what it took her 6 months to learn. So go take the boot camp, and any questions that aren't covered, then we'll talk to you. So we just want to think this through. The whole point of putting this boot camp together is so that instead of them doing one deal here and one deal there, that we are letting the real estate board, the 2 million realtors know, technically 1%, 20,000. But when 20,000 realtors are part of what we're doing, you can imagine how busy these guys are going to continue to get more and more. So this isn't about learning about them so you can circumvent the system. They're going to bring you right back to the system because we want them negotiating deals. They are your seller. They are your client. And you do not want your client that you are working with, who's making decisions on the deals for you, over there answering a call from Bob because Bob's too cheap to be a part of the boot camp. So please understand that. The last bullet point, they will give you a bonus when the first deal is on the table in 90 days. Look, the boot camp is $997. Right now during the launch, it's $497. They will give you a $497 bonus on the settlement statement when you bring a deal within 90 days. When that deal closes, if it closes within 90 days, if it closes, whenever it closes, it could take it a year if there's a problem. But when that deal closes, your $497 is going right back in your pocket. So if you're taking the time to learn about charitable gifting of real estate, and there's all these nonprofits that you say you care about and that you want to help, and you're a real estate professional, and you say you're worthy of a full commission, but you haven't joined the boot camp yet, what the hell is going on? They're going to give you the money back, okay? So we're going to be meeting my buddies here in just a few minutes, and I want you to be thinking, what are those questions? What are the questions about charitable gifting of real estate that you have? What are the questions about the unfair advantage program that you have? Because if it's about the unfair advantage, which includes the boot camp is step number 1. Got to get competent at charitable gifting of real estate, what it is, how the transactions go down. That's step number 1. Step number 2 and 3 with the unfair advantage is all Cami Baker. It's all in the strategy and how to be seen and received and positioned, and how to partner and promote and all that fun stuff. So whatever the questions you have around the unfair advantage, feel free to pop them in the chat right now if you're on Zoom. If you're watching this on Facebook later on, put them in the comments because we will be answering them within 24 hours if those questions are about that, because Jennifer and I can help you with that. But if it's about charitable gifting of real estate. You are getting ready to have the unfair advantage by having this specialized nonprofit at your disposal to ask those questions. Jennifer, if you could send over an email and see if Mr. Bruce is around yet. I can't tell from the way I'm looking at this. Oh, I see Chris Renqua. Hey, Chris, glad to have you on the Zoom with us today as well. So when Bruce comes on, I'm going to give him a few minutes just to share with you who he is and why Realty Gift Fund was created and how their brilliant minds, having 25, 30 years of commercial real estate experience and philanthropic experience, etc., how these guys saw this big disparity. Why is it that 1.6 million, 1.1 million that are public, as Bruce tells me all the time, but the 1.1 or 1.6 million nonprofits in this country, why is it that they are all struggling and competing and, dare I say, fighting over the cash for donations? Cash is only 11% of the wealth in this country. Whether you make 20,000 a year or 20 million a year, on average, the cash we have access to is about 11%. The wealth we have in real estate is 43%. And when 43% of the wealth is in real estate, yet these 1.6 million nonprofits are all stammering and struggling over themselves for the cash, and over 400 billion a year is donated to those nonprofits, but only 2% has been coming from real estate. So that 8 billion a year that I've been telling you about is really a very small amount of money when you consider that it's only 2% of what these nonprofits are taking in. So these gentlemen many years ago saw this, and they thought of several different ways to bridge the gap, to be the go-between. They put their heads down and they really thought, with our real estate experience and our nonprofit experience and understanding how these transactions go down and how there's this big disparity. Let's see, the donors need their tax advantage. The donors need a way to donate the property to a 501c3 so that they can get their tax advantage. That's what the donors need. The nonprofits don't have a pocket full of cash to pay off mortgages. They shouldn't have mission drift. And you'll hear us talk a lot about this mission drift thing when you are in the boot camp, because mission drift means if your mission is to home our veterans, if that's your mission, if somewhere in your mission is to home our veterans, then that's what you should be on. If you start trying to negotiate real estate and trying to pay off mortgages and trying to get a roof fixed or hire a realtor, et cetera, you're drifting. You're drifting off of your mission, right? So that's one of the many reasons why nonprofits don't do these transactions. Jennifer, if you could reach out to Bruce and see if he's around. I told him 125, but I'm actually ready for him a little bit sooner if you just can ask him in an email. And if not, don't worry about it. He's always prompt. He's always on time. I just told him 125. So when these donors want the tax advantage and the nonprofits would love to get the cash, but they don't need to be drifting off their mission. They don't understand how it works. They don't have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to pay off mortgages, give the donor cash from the property, hold, or, they've taken on properties, even like a strip mall that was 30% full. They took that strip mall and they got more tenants in. In other words, they managed it, they maintained it, they had out-of-pocket expense to get tenants into the building so that they could sell it for more money so that more money could go to the nonprofits. See, a nonprofit, even if they have your help as the seasoned real estate professional that you are, even if they had your help, they shouldn't be doing that because it's just not their bag, right? So these guys said, what if there was a nonprofit, veteran nonprofit helps veterans, Animal nonprofits help animals. Education nonprofits help education. What if there was a nonprofit whose mission and sole purpose was to facilitate these transactions, take ownership of the property, have a donor agreement filled in so that the donor knows that exactly the amount of money that they are wanting to go to their nonprofit from this transaction is going to that nonprofit, and however many else they want, they know exactly how the whole thing's going to go down. What if that specialized nonprofit was able to step in the middle and take care of these transactions and give the money to all the other nonprofits? So that's exactly what they did. They have created that very entity so that you, and on top of creating that entity, they have real estate history. So when I first was negotiating with them and speaking with them and learning all of this, remember, it took me 6 months to really get all of this down. So you can take 6 months and figure it out, or you can be with us on the boot camp and learn about it in about 4 hours. But they said, let your real estate friends know, Cammie, that we give a full commission. And at first I said, oh, well, we don't talk. There's Bruce. I'll bring him on in just a second. You know, we don't talk about commission. And I said, well, we don't talk about commission. And he said, well, no, you tell them we give a full commission. And so for those of you who've asked me, what real estate company are you with? You know, who are you licensed with? How many of these deals are you personally doing? I have a real estate license, but it is in inactive status. I don't want to be affiliated with any of the real estate offices because that would limit what I could say to you. My ability to say, we want to pay you a full commission, I couldn't say that if I was part of a board somewhere. So that's one of the reasons that I don't have my license active. But Jennifer is moderating what we're doing. Jennifer, can we bring Bruce on and can we give him and I a screen together? I don't know if that's possible or not. If not, Bruce, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, buddy boy. So
hey, Cammie.
Hi. So you do pop on the screen when you chat, so that's good. So I have been pumping you up all week. I've been calling the specialized nonprofit, dangling the carrot so that everyone would come and meet you today. And they all know pretty well what you do, like what your position is in all of this. But I wanted them to meet you and not only see that you're a real person, but you're just one of the most professional, well-spoken, nicest businessmen that I've ever met. So please feel free to introduce yourself to our tribe.
Well, thank you. And welcome to all of you. We got Hulk Hogan there. That's pretty good. So I'm Bruce Geis. I've been working with Cammie now for several months. She's sort of attached to my hip these days because we have a pretty interesting platform. 4 of us got together. We've been friends for a long time, professional colleagues for a long time from around the country. Each of us with a 35, 40-year career in real estate. Each of us with a pretty robust activity in the nonprofit world. And we got together to merge our 2 interests together, philanthropy and real estate. Discovered a problem. Cammie's probably already told you about it. We're darn determined to solve that problem, to put real estate into the charitable pipeline. And we do work across the country. And we're really happy pretty much every day when we go home for the work we do. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the building world and in commercial real estate and as an investor. And, you know, it can be a tough racket. The work I do right now makes me feel pretty good. I love going home at the end of the day to tell my wife and my family what we got done. So that's who I am. We can talk about that more.
Yeah, and when you and I met, just to give them a little bit of the difference between how we've explained what you were doing up until now has been a little bit more of the reactive positioning, but what you and I are doing together is proactive. Can you speak on that, please?
Well, that's one of we have a few favorite sayings at Realty Gift Fund. And one of them is to be proactive and not reactive, because that is exactly the problem in the nonprofit world. The nonprofit world doesn't function well with gifts of real estate, because the nonprofits, as one of three legs of the charitable pipeline stool, is not very active in accepting gifts of real estate. They largely just say no. We're trying to turn them into being proactive by not taking gifts of real estate, but by using us to do that for them, but asking for gifts of real estate. When we reach out to real estate brokers, and this is why CAMI is so darn important to what we do, is we need for the advisory community, and mostly in this case, it's the real estate brokerage community, to be proactive, understand what charitable giving of real estate is, so that you can go to your clients, boost your own career by boosting their position, their intelligence about another way of liquidating an asset, and solve several issues at one time. So, you know, any real estate broker, if I get a donation in Jackson, Mississippi, I got a call yesterday from Sweden, Maine. I've been to Maine, but I've never been to Sweden, Maine before. I'm going to do a little land trust deal to help a land trust group in Sweden, Maine. And I've got to find a broker in Sweden, Maine. So I can do that. I know how to do that. That's going to be a chance for that broker to be reactive, take my call, help me out. But what CAMI's specialty is to help you all become proactive in this burgeoning opportunity of the charitable giving of real estate. Learn more about it. Go to your clients, your high net worth clients, go to your ordinary clients. You'd be darn surprised how ordinary one can be and still have a little beach house or ski cabin or what have you that they don't use anymore, and they'd like to use it as a charitable gift. And you also, as I did in my career, want to reach out to somebody you've never had an audience with, but you've been dying to do that. CAMI is offering you a training here where you've got a chance to reach up to another level of clients by being proactive with this information.
You know, every time we talk, it just re-emphasizes what we're doing here. And you made so many great points there about getting in front of that audience that you've been wanting to get in front of. You know, there are certain neighborhoods in your market that so-and-so has always been their realtor, has been for 30 years, and you'd love to get in there and do some business in that club, in that neighborhood, in that zip code, but you never have before. But I guarantee you, so-and-so, no matter how long they've been in the business, doesn't know how this works, and they definitely aren't doing it the way that we are. And so when you are able to talk to people in that neighborhood, in that company, in that corporation, in that higher echelon club, ooh, boy, what a difference that makes in how you show up and the people you can do business with. That's why when we talk about being proactive, you know, it's not just about the charitable gifts of real estate. It's about the conversations that you'll have about it that could lead to listing a $10 million strip mall that even they're not donating, but now that you've had that conversation with them, they hire you anyway. So Bruce, share with our friends a little bit about, we're doing this boot camp next week on Tuesday. We're going to be recording it and people can watch it on the recordings afterwards because there's going to be a lot of information. But talk about, you know, what it is that we're going to be teaching them in the boot camp and why it's so important that they be a part of the boot camp as opposed to just reaching out and trying to pick your brain for an hour.
Right. Well, you know, picking my brain for an hour has its limitations. Okay. Just so you know, although I probably am one of the leading experts in America on the charitable gifts of real estate. We do deals all over the country. We've done homes, we've done ski cabins, shopping centers, office buildings, resorts, restaurants, and we've worked from now Sweden, Maine, to California. So we know quite a bit about it. The way we got into this is that we are creative real estate people, though we're domiciled in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which actually is considered a creative community. I guess that's why I'm here. We have found that we needed to be particularly creative because we have a lot of very smart and wealthy clients who have either made Santa Fe their home or their second home. And just getting back to Cammie's point before I answer really her question, I know a couple of very, very wealthy people in my community and in the communities that I deal with who I've ever not actually ever had access to. But when I tell them a story about the charitable giving of real estate, they never say to me, go talk to Fred about that. They do want to know more about what it is I am telling them. And I become just another one of now their advisors on a topic that they're actually pretty eager to learn more about. If you're charitably inclined, the gifting of real estate is a no-brainer. If you've got a difficult property and wake up every Monday morning and say, why do I own this one? Which, by the way, I'm a real estate investor, and I have awakened on Monday mornings often saying, why do I own this one? And I'm looking for a creative way of disposing of it. Or if I just have a problem, a property that's causing me just sort of some stagnation, and I'm looking for someone to partner up with me intellectually to move my way through it, this conversation opens a lot of doors. So just telling you that.
Absolutely. And when we talked about doing the boot camp and how important it is to have boots on the ground and foot soldiers and people spreading the good word, etc., you even generously offered to give a bonus, a little reimbursement. You want to talk about that?
Well, Cammie is charging for the class, which of course only makes sense. We all, as real estate brokers and real estate professionals, spend a little money here and there to learn more about the real estate world and what's current and what's not. I just came off of a 90-minute Zoom session where we were talking with attorneys about what's new in the Colorado market. So that was my little educational moment for the morning. But what we told Cammie is that if a broker takes the class, pays the fee, gets active, the real estate world has always been an eat what you kill kind of environment. You do the work, you get paid a commission. If you come to the table with a property that gets into our charitable pipeline, at the closing of the sale of that property, we will not only pay you the commission that you've earned, but we will reimburse you the fee. It helps us for you all to be really great at what you do and to learn more about what we do. So this is not, we're not selling steak knives here. Philanthropy is a serious business. When you talk to somebody about their philanthropy, you're actually sitting at their kitchen table, not their boardroom table. And you're talking to the husband and the wife, and maybe sometimes even the kids, about their legacy. We often say, as another favorite saying, it's not what you do, it's who you are. And people reveal a lot about who they are when you introduce the conversation of philanthropy. So we try to have fun. It's very low key, but it's a very big deal to these people. And it is an absolutely true statement that if John Smith has been giving $10,000 a year to the Cancer Fund or the MS Society or to the veterans organizations, John Smith will give 2 to 7 times more if he's allowed to make a gift of a non-cash asset. That is a statistical fact. And so people do step up to their sense of wealth and their legacy, combining them together when they're allowed to make a gift of real estate.
I love
all what we do.
For those of you who are watching now in the moment, if you have a question for Bruce, please put them in the comments. I can see the comments and I'll be happy to moderate that and answer whatever questions that you have. And, you know, I love that our personalities are so different because I can be a little intense. I can be a little intimidating sometimes only because I'm so passionate about what we do. But as you can see, Bruce is the beautiful complement of poise and grace. And he's the one you'd be working with a little bit more anyway when it comes to charitable giving.
Tammy, I'm married to a New York gal. And I know how to deal with you East Coast people, okay? And just so you know, Cammie and I have a great relationship. She is
awesome. So as we are waiting to see if anybody wants to step up with a question, I just want to point out some of the people that we have live on this call. There is a gentleman here who is very, very passionate about helping to prevent teen suicide. There is someone on here that is the social media person for the Lions Club in Tampa, Florida, but also has access to Lions Club International, which has a branch in every city USA that needs to know about this. There's another gentleman on here that is a dear friend of mine that I've known for 15 years that was actually a minister before he was a real estate agent and is just one of the most kind, gentle souls that you can imagine. So there's just a really nice cross section. And when I'm so passionate about this, because I think of all these people who are listening to us right now and the children's lives that are going to be saved and the churches that are going to get to do their work and the Lions Club potentially millions and millions of dollars run through the Lions Club and potentially even through her pocket, through referrals, through real estate. So I just want you to know, Bruce, who we've got on this call.
We have given, we've given out almost $3 million at this point. You know, we are not new to the real estate business. I mean, you can tell by seeing me, I'm not a young person like Cammie. I'm an experienced senior advisor to the real estate community. But Realty Gift Fund is somewhat new. We've put it together and operated it now for the last 3 years. We have sent out over $3 million. We have funded food banks, schools, churches, hospitals, the environment, veterans groups. You know, there's, and it's kind of endless. We also have funded donor advised funds, which is a bit of a unique way of funding the charitable world. We can get into that a little bit later, perhaps in the boot camp. But a donor advised fund is an inexpensive way for someone to set up their own charitable fund and use it for years or generations and make small gifts out of it. I am wiring tomorrow. I just got the wiring instructions. We took a partial interest in a resort on the Canadian border in Minnesota, which generated $608,000, which is sitting in my account for the donor, who opened up a donor advised fund at a sponsor based in Hudson, Ohio. Very, very big, important donor advised fund sponsor. And we're going to wire $608,000 to that donor advised fund tomorrow morning. Oh, actually not tomorrow, it's Saturday, so Monday morning. The donor who originated the real estate gift to Realty Gift Fund, which we then sold to generate the proceeds which are being wired into his donor advised fund, now has a fund which is being invested by the sponsor, will grow in value, and from which every month, every year, whenever, he can make decisions about 5 grand here, 10 grand here, 20 grand here, 100 grand here, and he can do this for as long as he wants. And when he passes, he can leave the fund to the administration of his children. So this is a way to sort of set up a family foundation without actually all the expense and IRS requirements of a private foundation.
That actually leads into some questions that we have that have come in. I'm going to address the ones that I can, and then I'll pass to you, Bruce, one that I would love to hear your input on. Chip Sutton is my friend in New Hampshire. He says, who chooses the charity? Does the donor select the charity? Do we get to select the charity? It's really interesting because we've talked about that quite a bit this week. The donor of the property does get to choose the charity. After all, you know, think about it like this. If somebody was writing a check for $100, whoever's writing that check for $100 is writing who the check is to. Now, that when it has been a reactive thing, you know, this place in Sweden, Maine randomly finds Bruce and they react, hey, we've got this property that we would like to do the charitable gifting of real estate with. Can you help us? That's a reactive thing. Obviously, they know what they're going to do with it and all that. Because we are learning to be proactive, because we are learning to go out into the marketplace and let people know that this is a thing. You know, obviously, think about it. If you're going into your church and you say, hey, church people, we can accept charitable gifts of real estate. Someone sitting in that church is probably going to want most of the donations to go to that church. But as we've talked about, one donation can fund lots of nonprofits. So that person might say, well, you know what? I'll give 50% to the church. I want to give 20% to the veterans. And Chip, you've been so kind as to let me know about this. Who would you like to give some of the proceeds to? So the donor makes the decision, but for you as a real estate professional, to be out prospecting, if you will, or proactively engaging with people. Andy also asks, let me just go through these. You know, he asked, can a small percentage of the total donation go to the nonprofit of my choice? So I think that kind of answers this. Multiple nonprofits, you and the donor can talk about that and decide that. And I know, Bruce, you could give more on that, but that's the gist of that one. Let me answer this one other question, and then I want to open it up to you. Michael Jones wants to ask a verbal question. Hold off on that 1 second, please, Michael. Michael DeShavi, who you met, Bruce, is asking, Bruce, can you please speak about this in the context of estate planning? Every time Bruce talks about this from the perspective of estate planning, I always learn more because my mind is all about real estate agents, etc. But Bruce, feel free to expand upon, from the estate planning perspective, why this is such a benefit to the donors.
Well, that question, Michael, is a really good question, because a sophisticated real estate person, a wealthy person, maybe someone, you know, it's surprising. We did a real estate gift with a woman who only owned one extra piece of real estate in her whole portfolio. She wasn't considered a wealthy person, and she only had one extra thing. But even for her, the estate planning angle was kind of important, because some people, when you look at, and by the way, a lot of the donations that we do come from financial advisors and wealth managers who are doing estate planning. Analyze a person's portfolio and say, what is it you need to keep in order to protect your lifestyle, your kids' lifestyle, your health, your welfare, and what have you. And that's mostly your liquid assets. And we do understand by looking at your activity that you are charitably inclined and that you give away a certain amount of money every year. Wouldn't it be wise to select something out of your complex asset portion of your estate and use a complex asset that has appreciated, and therefore if it were sold by anyone in a conventional way, it would be subject to a lot of taxes? Why don't we use that complex asset as a charitable gift? When you do that, you walk away from all the taxes that are inherent to the value of that asset. And you get a charitable deduction. And both the taxes, by the way, and the charitable deduction, well, that's not true. The charitable deduction is based on the property's appraised value. So I spoke with a gentleman this morning who's got a $2.2 million property in the mountains of Colorado. He's not going to sell it for 2.2 once he described it to me. He's going to sell it for 1.8, probably. He might even take 1.6. But he could probably get an appraisal for 2.5. If he makes a charitable deduction or makes a charitable gift to us of that property, it passes to us at 2.5. That is his charitable deduction. And now we sell the property and the net proceeds go to the donor's recommended nonprofit or nonprofits. And maybe we can hang in there and get it sold for $2 million or 1.9. But he's fixed with his charitable deduction at the appraised value. And as long as the margin between what his appraisal is and we sell it for is reasonable, we have the right to sell it for whatever we want. We're a different owner. We have different circumstances. And it's a two-step process. The charitable donation passes at the appraised value. The charitable funds pass at the sale value. So financial advisors are pretty interested in working with us because they can help balance out a person's tax obligations. They can remove an asset, a valuable asset, from an estate in order to reduce exposure to the death taxes if someone were to pass away.
Let me jump in here, Bruce, because we also want you to know, Michael, we are not wanting to educate you to become someone's financial advisor. We don't want anyone on here turning into a tax accountant. We are not attorneys. We are not CPAs. We are not giving tax advice. Anyone that we consult with, including when we do the boot camp, is going to have a disclosure. You need to go talk to your professional in whatever category you have questions about. We are answering these questions right now to show you that you have at your disposal, at your ready for your help, people who understand how to get the transaction done. Now, we don't want to get too complicated because, Michael, when you go and you're talking to a high net worth person and you say to them, and by the way, this would be really incredible for your estate planning. And he says, what do you mean? Well, you need to bring him to the table to talk to Bruce, because one of our mottos is do what you do best, refer the rest. Do what you do best. So if you're a real estate professional, what you do best is list and sell that property. We are not suggesting that you become an expert. We want you to show up and positioned as the charitable gifting of real estate specialist, We want your market and your community to see you as the go-to specialist. But in the background, you need to know that we're going to refer these types of questions to the people who are best to answer them. So let me just look over here. Latanya says, so do we make a website like your realty charity company? Do we make a separate business to advertise this? No, absolutely not.
No,
I mean, you know,
no.
you can do whatever you want to do, but no, there's no need for that. Latanya is actually the one who does social media for the Lions Club. So for example, your Lions Club Facebook, your Lions Club website, we'll talk about this later in the boot camp and in the Unfair Advantage. All you would need to do is put a disclosure on there. Hey, we accept charitable gifts of real estate. There's a nonprofit here in this area that is, you know, it's an acupuncture studio. Instead of it being $100 for treatment, it's $20 for treatment. So they provide a low cost health alternative, and they're a nonprofit. Now, just like dozens of other business owners that I've worked with before, the employees are not very helpful. They're not helpful. So they're so afraid that they're going to have to explain this or talk about it, et cetera, et cetera. So I came on a Zoom and I let them know, when we put the flyer up in the bathroom and when you send out the email and post on Facebook that you're accepting charitable gifts of real estate, the minute anyone asks you a question, what is that? How does it work? What do you accept? Your next statement is simply, thank you so much for your generous thoughts. We'll put you in touch with our real estate branch. We'll put you in touch with our real estate professional. Thank you so much for your question. We'll put you in touch with the people who can answer that, and leave it at that. We don't want people to be overwhelmed with thinking that, you know, you have to learn this thing for months and take a test. When we start certifying people, when we certify 1% of the realtors in this country, and you become a certified charitable gifting of real estate specialist, there'll be a quick little test just to make sure that you know what you're doing, and you need to do at least one deal to show that you can do a deal, but there's not some huge test. Michael Jones, we have got very limited time. I'm going to allow the question only because I want to acknowledge you, but please keep it very short. And Bruce, if it's something that's going to be covered in the boot camp, just say so, because we want them to come and get educated with us. Go ahead, Michael.
I have a financial planning background 20 years ago, and my questions might be a little bit more interested in the technical area. I was curious about the donor fund. When they donated the charity, and I don't want to get too technical if this isn't the place, you can feel free to cut me off, but when they donated the money to you, and then they put it in the donor fund, but it didn't get to the charity yet, when do they get the deduction?
Well, in all cases, Michael, that's a very good question. In all cases, Realty Gift Fund, that's who I am. We are a 501c3 qualified nonprofit. The charitable gift and the charitable deduction happen when the property comes to us.
Perfect.
The fact that we are then feeding other nonprofits with the outcome of what we do, it's done in the form of a grant. And so we are making grants to other nonprofits, much the way a community foundation would do. We are not a donor advised fund. We are a collaborator working alongside nonprofits to feed them the outcome of the real estate gifts that we take.
And on that, I'm sorry, Bruce, I don't mean to cut you off. I know you have to go at 2. Let me just read this last question. And I also want to mention, right now it's October 2nd. If someone brings a property to the table, Bruce evaluates it and says, yes, this is a viable donation, it meets our criteria, which we'll be talking about at the boot camp. When that donation is made, let's say it's made October 15th, to go back and answer your question more, Michael Jones, and from the questions some have asked, that donation is in 2020. So they donated. Bruce is a 501c3. They made a donation to a charity, a 501c3. Now he puts it on the market with you, Michael Jones, and now it doesn't sell until January or February or June. It doesn't matter. They donated it in 2020. That's another
correct.
reason why time is so much of the essence. We will be doing this class again in about 30 days. We're going to see if we can't get on a bit of a routine of teaching it every 30 days. But right now, you can not only get us like individually with just a handful of people to get all your questions answered, but there are people out there, back to your question, Michael DeShavia, about estate planning, who will jump right in right now because they need a tax deduction this year and they won't get it any other way. Let me read this one last question and then we're going to bounce off. I'm curious about referrals too. I have a lot of commercial agent contacts and would like to educate them since they'd be listing and they're kind of weird about referral fee. Andy, they need to come be in the boot camp too. You know, the best gift you can give any of these people is an introduction to us and to get them in the boot camp. By the next time that I do this, we will have affiliate links and you all can use affiliate links to bring in your friends. But suffice it to say that if they become a boot camp participant, I'll give you a $200 referral fee. If they do the whole unfair advantage, I'll give you a total of a $500 referral fee. So until we get the technology lined up in the background, until there's hundreds and thousands of people coming through, we can do it with our noodle. Just tell me you introduced me to John. But bring those people in and you can get a referral fee that way. And in real estate, you can work stuff out with them. Guys, it's right at 2 o'clock. Bruce, for those people who are watching, whether it's now live or whether it's 3 months or 6 months from now and they see this video and they're trying to decide, I'm a real estate professional. Mm-hmm. This sounds kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. What would you say to them?
Well, I would tell everybody that this is a super large opportunity. We believe that we can increase the charitable giving of real estate by over $1 billion a year. We think the actual room from the research we've done is $10 billion a year. That's why we're doing it. We need a team to scale up to do this, which is why we need Cami and we need all of you. We do pay, look, we're all brokers. We grew up in this business. We pay fees, we pay referral fees. I have never lost in my career a deal over a broker fee. And so we'll just be honest with each other. I'm referring you a person who I know, a broker in another state. Obviously I can't list that property. He's going to list that property, but I referred him to you. Boom, a referral fee. These kinds of things are not a problem. Okay. We want you to become really good at it. I'll tell you what, this makes me feel really good about the real estate career that I've got. I would like for you to have as much fun in your real estate career as I'm having, because nothing feels better than sending a check for $100,000 to a nonprofit that's really worthy. Okay.
Absolutely. And the $1 billion, when you think about it, 6% commission, that's $60 million in commissions that we are wanting to pay out to all of our friends. So Bruce, I want to honor your time and thank you for being here. I know you've got to bounce, and we will see you at the boot camp on Tuesday and every Wednesday thereafter for some Q&A. Yeah.
I'm there. I'm there for you. If I can make you better, that helps me be better. That helps our nonprofit world be better. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. And actually that leads us to basically the end. I want to get back to our points to remember, our points to ponder on our form that we're filling out. He helps to make me better so that I can help make you guys better, because the fact is I have a personal goal of helping $1 billion of real estate to be donated to nonprofits worldwide by 2025. And I can't do it in a vacuum. I can't do it on my own. I need your help to do it. And the fact is, we're going to pay you to do it. So let's look back down at our form. Bruce and I have put together a form very similar to this for the boot camp. So how we've had every day in this training, this packet with the blank lines and everything, you'll be getting the same type of thing in the boot camp so that you can follow along. And let's see, what are some of your questions? We talked about what your questions are for charitable gifting of real estate. If you have any specific questions around the unfair advantage, you can put them in the comments or put them on the Facebook group. Let me see, Latanya has another question. Is there a fee for realty gift fund for holding the property? No, not for holding the property. The beauty of it is any holding costs that they incur, they will incur because they have the pockets to do that. And then at the closing, any of their expenses, think about this just like any other transaction, right? If there was some type of a fee to fix the roof or whatever, and it was negotiated at the beginning that all the expenses are going to come out at the closing table back to the person who paid them. The same thing here. So let's say Bruce has $10,000 out of pocket for holding costs over a 3-month period. Well, they would get reimbursed for that $10,000, and then all the fees would be dispersed as anything else. And how do they get paid? So that's probably your question. I apologize. The fee that they get paid to handle the transaction. It's anywhere from 3 to 10%. Keep in mind, sometimes it's a $50,000 piece of land that's just free and clear and piece of land. It could be a $10 million strip mall. So depending on the situation, there's a small donation that Realty Gift Fund takes. And the way that I've been explaining it, and Bruce, I don't want to bother you with this. I know you got to get on to your next meeting, and we'll handle all of this in the boot camp. But overall, when I'm talking to a nonprofit, I let them know that at least 90% of the proceeds will go to them. It could be 95%, it could be 97% of the proceeds. So if it's a property that is listed for $1 million and it sells at $1 million, you, the real estate agent, get the full commission on the $1 million. In that case, $60,000, 6% commission on the $1 million. But what if it had a $500,000 mortgage on it and this expense and that expense? What if the proceeds were only $400,000? Well, Realty Gift Fund gets a piece of the $400,000. You got a piece of the $1 million. So I don't want to get too muddled down in all those details. Suffice it to say, all of that gets covered in the boot camp. So let's finish up today's call because we're right at about an hour. Points to ponder. Here are the points to ponder. Are you wanting to, first line, are you wanting to make more money?
I'm leaving. I'm leaving now, Cammie.
Okay.
I've just been listening. I've been looking at all the questions, wanted to make sure everyone was good. Thank you all. I will see you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.
So are you wanting to make more money and make a difference? See, now that you've met Bruce, you can see why I am so excited to be introducing him to as many realtors as I know. And if it's not you, it's going to be somebody in your marketplace. So if you're ready to make money and make a difference, this is the place to be. Number 2 on the bullet points. Are you ready to replace competition with collaboration? You know, the word competition is kind of funny, but I talk about the word competition because some of my friends on here, I know that you would just love to be the listing agent. You don't want to compete. You don't want to, go to Bruce and say, well, here's my credentials and here's how great I am, knowing that there's 3 other realtors that he's going to interview all of you and you're competing. Some of you don't want to do that. You want to just know, hey, this is awesome. There's no competition. I told my church about it. My church has a donation. I brought that property to the table. I'm the listing agent and I get a full commission. Ding, ding, ding. Some of you I've talked to are actually very competitive. You like being competitive. It drives you. You want to compete, but you want to compete to win. And there's no better way to compete to win than to almost like if you were knowing that the fight's going to be thrown to your betterment. Like if there's 2 guys going in the ring and everybody's got their money on the table and one of the guys is already planning to take a fall. It's like, in this case, the other guy's already taken a fall. You are the winner. You're it. Ding, ding, ding. You don't have to compete. So let's stop competing and start collaborating. The next bullet point on that page, leave a, massive legacy sooner than later. we can continue to do the volunteering. You know, the animal shelter still needs the cages cleaned out. You know, the Boys and Girls Club still needs, you know, people to come volunteer and be the clown at their next event, blow up balloons or whatever. We can still do that sort of stuff, and you can still give $100 at closing if you want. But can you see now how, with charitable gifting of real estate, in 1 year, in one transaction, you could help your nonprofit get more than all your $100 donations combined. Leave a legacy now. Don't wait till you're on your deathbed to leave a legacy. You can do it now. The analogy is this: blank versus blank. So, charitable gifting of real estate 101 boot camp versus the unfair advantage. What's the analogy? What's the difference? Having the unique tool required to build the house that everyone wants. Charitable gifting of real estate is a unique tool that no one else you know has in their toolbox. And it builds a house that they've never even seen before. It's a really, really unique tool. The rest of it. Versus having the blueprint and the architect of the house along with other skilled builders to collaborate with during the building process. In other words, now that we know what charitable gifting of real estate is, now that we're doing the boot camp to get all of those little questions answered, to really understand when the donation happens, all great questions you guys ask, very interesting. Most of those questions have already been covered, but it just goes to show we need to ask. We need to hear it a few times. Repetition helps us to really get that into our head, right? So charitable gifting of real estate boot camp is the tool that no one else has. And you can list and liquidate, and we will pay you a full commission. Hell, you don't even need to do the boot camp for us to do that. But to have the conversations with people with confidence, you need to get your questions truly answered. And to have Bruce and I every week to answer more questions about charitable gifting after the boot camp, there are questions you don't even know you have yet. You won't even know these questions until you go through the boot camp and you think, oh, well, that makes me think of this, right? So you'll have us for that next 90 days afterwards. But now that you're an expert at it, how are you going to leverage that? How are you going to take that one listing and get in front of the media? How are you going to use that in your social media, in your emails, in your conversations when you're out networking? You know, the boot camp, one of the biggest modules, the last module of the day, who to talk to, what to say, and how to say it. And Bruce and I are going to go over, like, specifically, here's some ideas of places where you can get these listings from the nonprofit, from high net worth groups, from your current clients and friends. Like he said, there are people, everyone on here, every one of us knows at least one person. When I started doing this, I introduced Bruce to a guy that I know who's another speaker and coach who does a lot of training for real estate offices. And when I was telling him about it, he randomly said, you know, I've got this condo. I bought it 25 years ago for the girlfriend that I was dating at the time, for her to have a place to live. It's 25 years later. It's been paid off for years. She still lives in it. She pays me a stipend for rent. And every year I think maybe I should just sell it. Maybe I should get rid of this headache. I don't want to have this tie to her anymore. And so I was telling him about, well, you know, as a businessman, not only could you donate this to nonprofits to do a good thing, but think about the PR campaign if you were to donate this and have the money go to a domestic abuse shelter, and all the PR we could do. Local Vermont author and speaker donates $121,462 to local domestic shelter. See, people are going to read that. They're going to see his name. They're going to see the photo. They're going to go to the link. They're going to, like, it's PR that he couldn't pay for any other way. It's just a beautiful way to not only make a difference, but also be seen and be heard and get exposure. So that's the kind of creative, strategical thinking that we're doing in the unfair advantage. So that's the difference between the two. We are not done. Today is the 5th day, but tomorrow at the same time, we'll be back. I know it's Saturday, but Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m. we'll be back tomorrow I'll be interviewing one of my clients that I have known for, 10, 12 years now. He's been with me through real estate, through network marketing. And when I told him about what we're doing several months ago, before I had any idea how we were going to put the boot camp or anything together, he just said, I'm in. He paid months ago to be a part of this. And I'll be interviewing him as to why is that? What is it about this and working with me over the years that made you jump right in before you even knew what you were jumping into? And we're also going to introduce you to a gentleman who made one donor, 2 donations, over $600,000 to these nonprofits. So you'll be able to be introduced to Bob Tate. And I'm doing those on Sunday. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing the 20 plus sources of sizzling hot sellers. So when I was a listing agent, I was very creative. And there are 20 plus, not just expireds and for sale by owners and vacant properties and past clients, but some really creative ways of finding listings. So tomorrow, I'll be going over those, and I'm going to give you stories about my top 3, including the one that got me my biggest commission check, which is how I bought that 64.5 Mustang convertible, which is what led to the car shows and the 7 years of making donations to a horse farm, and literally why we're here today. The reason why Charitable Gifting of Real Estate Boot Camp and the Unfair Advantage was created is because I saw this in December last year, saw how big it was because of all the work I've done with nonprofits. And I wouldn't have had that experience if I hadn't have been doing those car shows. So this one phone call that I was making while prospecting turned into this commission check that turned into that car, turned into what we're doing today. It's just interesting to see the butterfly effect of what we do. So that's tomorrow at 1 o'clock, telling you the stories and sharing the 20 plus sources of sizzling hot sellers. And the 2 interviews are on Sunday. Make sure that you reach out to me and or Jennifer if you have questions about how any of this works. You can literally have first movers advantage, or you can sit back and watch other people in your marketplace have it. I remember when I was in network marketing and seeing someone there was a guy in Manchester, New Hampshire, a guy named Tom Roy, who ran Kelly Construction, multi-million-dollar building and constructing and all of that. And he was just the nicest guy. And he was in our business. And he brought in just thousands and thousands of people and dollars and commissions. And every time he would get on the stage and he would say, hi, very humble, hi, my name's Tom Roy. I own Kelly Construction, and that's my team over there. And there'd be 500 people over there. All the people in the room that knew him, that didn't tell him about it, that could have had him on their team, there were at least 3 people that I saw get up and leave and just quit because they just couldn't believe they didn't have Tom Roy. And that's why I know if you're sitting in your church or sitting in the meeting for the veterans group or the teen suicide committee, and you're sitting there, they say, hey, by the way, guys, that committee meeting that we had planned for the fundraiser, just want you to know, go enjoy your family. You don't need to bother. We got funded. We got a check for $200,000 from the sale of a property. John Smith helped us with that. Thanks, John. And we've got 3 other properties coming in. So we just don't need to bother with those. We're just going to help more kids. We're just going to save more lives. We're just going to bring the Lord to more people instead of wasting our time with all those committee meetings. I've seen the look on people's faces when they realize they missed the boat. And that's why I don't want to see that look on your face when you missed the boat, because the other agent in town brought it to your church and you didn't. So see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I look forward to answering any questions. Bye.